Hi, I'm Ross Gibbons of God Consent Podcast, and this is like my third, fourth, fifth take of this. I just have to keep shortening it down. In any case, I have three more stories to talk about today. Actually, I probably would have more if I had been paying more attention. Because this first story, what I'm going to talk about, really upset me a lot. Because not more so because I didn't really read all points into it at first. Not necessarily say I believe the police were right in this case, this police officer was right in this case, nor that it holds to my ideal on the whole idea of gun rights. But, yeah, after reading this and after reading the statement given the court, it's harder to be upset about, honestly. As it does appear that the police officer was doing everything that he was supposed to be doing, despite the fact that he really shouldn't have been able to take away a person's gun just simply because he was, according to at least Mr. Schubert, the man who was held at gunpoint by the police officer, that only the police officer, Officer Stern, was allowed to carry a weapon on his beat. I believe this is a clear violation of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, but apparently Mr. Schubert wasn't, despite being an attorney, didn't use that as a primary form of argument against, instead citing Fourth and Fifth Amendment case law issues, which the court readily threw away, essentially. So, yeah, perhaps Officer Stern, according to the policy of his division and policy the government gave to him, did nothing wrong, except for leaving Attorney Stern, whose concealed weapons permit the man, Stern, could not verify in a high crime area without his pistol. Or, quote unquote, I would say his best means of defending himself. Now, I'm not going to get into a whole here. It's simply that the attorney was not very good about how he argued his case, in my point of view, or the court was going to listen to him. And it's not going to help you ever to point out that this was something like the court's political decision on quote-unquote gun control. There is a position I don't particularly care about what was being written here, though, which I can find it again, but more or less points to the fact that the reason why Stern took his gun and his license and towed it down to the police station and more or less didn't arrest Schubert, as it turns out to be, was that he wasn't able to confirm a facially valid concealed weapons permission from the state for something you really shouldn't need permission from anyone to do, because there was no way to verify it outside that. And it argues that in laments against having laments for a centralized database containing such information as in weapons license and the validity of such. I don't like that as well. Quite frankly, the Second Amendment says it's my right, if I choose to do so, to keep and bear arms, as I am one of the people, assumably. And the argument there more or less comes along the line, I always thought it was kind of stupid, because it's not an argument between a militia versus an individual right. It's an argument whether or not it applies just to the federal government or to every government down to your local spinsters club. In any case, I'm going to go on to something else, because I know for a fact that some people I used to go to school with don't like the fact that anyone outside trained professionals should be able to carry firearms. In that case, it's more or less an idea that since all gun laws, other than perhaps actually giving out guns to people and training to people who want it, violate the Constitution of the United States of America, something that you guys supposedly support. I'm an anarchist. I don't see a reason to support this kind of bullshit. I didn't write my name down on it. But, as far as I'm concerned, if I'm forced to live underneath it, I'm going to want you guys to to actually follow the rules of the road on this case. And the people who I know used to go to school with, who work in government, hell, I used to work in government too. So it's not as if I'm not actually really against you guys. I just don't particularly care for the whole bullshit government political process anymore. I'm a political science major. Funny how that works. Going on to other stories, though, the United States wants farmers to use coal waste on their fields as fertilizers. Oy. According to the article here, presented on December 23rd, 2009, the material they wanted to as chalky waste from a coal-fired power plants to be used on farmers' fields to loosen and fertilize soil, even as they consider regulating coal waste for the first time. The material is produced by power plant scrubbers, which remove acid rain causing sulfur dioxide from plant emissions. I'm actually reading right here. A synthetic form of the mineral gypsum. It also contains minerals such as mercury, arsenic, lead, and other heavy metals, which is toxic. We want to use this as fertilizer? Really? But, of course, the government has already made a plan here. The EPA, a government agency, says the toxic metals occur in only tiny amounts. Excuse me for a second. Say that toxic metals occur in only tiny amounts and pose no threat to crops, surface water, or people. And that might be true in the short run. According to this, they've been doing it for since 2001 to 2008, where the use of the material as fertilizer has increased from 78,000 tons, excuse me, in 2002 to 279,000 tons in 2008. And that's the American Coal Ash Association I got that from. Now, the mineral's name itself is flue gas desulfurization gypsum, or FGD gypsum, and the Obama administration has continued promoting FGD gypsum's use in farming, which, if you don't understand what that means that President Bush and his administration were the first ones to push for it as use as a fertilizer. I have to agree with the environmentalists in this case, because we really don't know too much about right now how it might affect crops and ultimately human health, and of course groundwater and other things there as well. This is surface water he mentioned here, not groundwater, surface water. We're going to have to sit and find out, because it may be a very good fertilizer. I don't know. And but another story is a much happier note. Space.com, they found a hole in the moon. Yes, a hole in the moon. A one-time lava tube about the size of a city block and about as deep as a small skyscraper has been found on the moon, and with recent discoveries of water and water ice on the moon recently as well, they're now again talking about lunar colonies. About fucking time, honestly. I remember hearing stories about them promising lunar bases in the 50s. And it's funny to hear, because now that I remember it, they didn't land on the moon until the 60s. But just to get an idea, they landed on the moon in the 60s, did all that spacefaring and all kind of stuff, and more or less abandoned our ability to do so ever again. And I say this because the kind of storage, computer space needed to get to the moon in the 60s couldn't measure up to one of the most popular clock calculator wristband watches from the 90s. That little wristband watch had more computing power than the entire Apollo fleet. Well, one Apollo shuttle anyways. But, continue on this thing here as well. They've been interposing lunar colonies with bases and astronauts with colonists or settlers. I honestly have to say that I'd much rather be a colonist on the moon than remain down here. My politics probably work out better out there anyways, as I really expect it only to start happening when we do start going into space earnestly, and maybe not forever come back. But that's it, more or less, I have to talk to right now. This really has been something I've been trying to get done in a while. And as I see, I'm almost at my 10-minute limit. So, you guys have a nice night, and be seeing you.